Chapter 1. Ash on the Tide. On the morning her brother's voice rose from a dead man's mouth, Mara Ansel was standing knee-deep in the tide crypt, with a ledger in one hand and a bone awl in the other. The dead fisherman on the slab opened his eyes before she could finish correcting his cause of death. Not wide, not alive, just enough to show a thread of yellowed white. Brother Pell stopped mid-prayer with 2 fingers raised above the man's brow. The widow behind the iron rail made a small, broken sound. The fisherman's son, 9 or 10 and still glittering with scales from the morning catch, went silent so completely that Mara heard the drain water stop moving. The corpse's lips cracked. "Mara," he whispered, her brother's voice. Thomas had said her name exactly that way when they were children hiding under the stairs during storm bells. Flat first syllable, almost amused second, as if she were both the problem and the only person he trusted to solve it. Nobody else found that shape in her name. Not in 11 months. Not since Thomas vanished on the upper slope with a stolen map under his coat and a lie from the church following close behind. Pell stumbled backward. His censer clipped the wall and spilled bitter smoke. Seal his mouth. The corpse's eyes tracked Mara. Actually tracked her. "Don't let them ring me," it said. Then it died again. The candles resumed guttering. Water ticked into the drain. Somewhere above the crypt, a bell began tolling for morning prayer, late by 3 beats and wrong in the pitch. Mara did not move. If she moved, the room would become real. The widow gripped the iron rail. "What did you say?" "Trapped air," Pell said, not waiting, a final reflex. The fisherman's son stared at his father's mouth. "Da hated bells," he whispered, said they made the house feel hungry. Pell turned on him. "Enough." Mara looked at the boy, then at the corpse, then at Pell. He was not looking at the dead man anymore, he was looking at the witnesses. "What did you hear?" Pell asked her. Mara wiped her wet hand on her skirt. "Nothing holy." His face tightened beneath his beard. "You will say nothing of this. To the family, to anyone." There it was, not grief, not awe, containment. Care, they called it. Mostly it looked like locks. Crypt walls, sealed ledgers, mercy kitchens with guards at the doors, burial forms that could make a widow wait 3 days to cry in the correct room. Mara had spent most of her life in the tide crypts. She knew the difference between tending a wound and putting a lid on it. She had already corrected 3 lies that morning. One harmless, a daughter claiming her father had captained ships he had only loaded. One practical, a widow shaving years from a husband's age because the church charged less for certain categories of death. One unforgivable, fever written where Brian Lung belonged. Mara had crossed out fever in a hand so small Brother Pell would need his reading lens to find it. Petty, maybe. Useful, definitely. When a city sold grief by category, accuracy became a rude habit. Pell motioned 2 acolytes closer. "Finish the sealing. I will inform the rectory. That a corpse used my brother's voice? That the rites were disrupted." Mara stepped to the slab before the acolytes could reach it. The fisherman's burial cloth had slipped at the throat. Beneath the gray beard, tied against the skin with red twine, hung a bell no bigger than the last bone of a finger. It was not bronze, it was bone. For 1 stupid second she thought, "Do not touch that." Then she touched it. Tiny lines covered its pale surface. Waves, ribs, crescents, none of them holding still in the corner of her eye. At the bell's lip was a mark Thomas had used in his notebooks whenever he thought a church document had been falsified. A half circle cut through the middle. Moon, cut open. Thomas had touched this, or something wearing his purpose had. Mara cut the twine with her awl and closed the bell inside her fist. Pell saw the movement. "What did you take?" "A prayer charm." "Show me. You'll have to be more specific. My pockets contain all kinds of miracles. Do not be clever in sacred space. Then don't be frightened in it." The widow began to wail. Good. Not good for her. Good for Mara. Mara hated herself for thinking it, and used it anyway. She bowed as if dismissed, and left the tide crypt before Pell could remember he had authority. Outside, St. Law smelled like rain, fish guts, hot lime, and old money pretending it did not stink. Ash drifted from the kilns and stuck to wet faces. Carts jammed the lower street. A woman slapped a fishmonger with an eel. 2 acolytes stepped around a drunk in the gutter without pausing their hymn. The city climbed above all of it in steep terraces, markets and rope yards below, records houses and chapels in the middle, white cloisters high up where people pronounced mercy as if it were a family property. At the highest rise waited the crater quarter, the White Maw. Mara hated the name. Too holy, too pleased with itself. It was a hole. Even through rain, its rim looked wrong. Pale stone, pale walls, pale roofs, all of it catching more light than the morning had available. Children were warned not to stare at it during full moons, in case the old wound remembered them. Mara had stared anyway. Thomas had stared longer. 11 months gone. 6 searches, 4 bribes, 2 beatings, 1 promise to herself each week that she would stop looking. Now a dead man had said her name in his voice. She ducked into an alley between the candle market and the records house and opened her fist. The bone bell was warm, not body warm, handed to you warm. Mara swallowed once. It did not help. Thomas had always left signs where only she would know how to hate him for them. A chalk slash on a locked gate, a false date in a public ledger, a joke hidden in an index of funerary tariffs because he believed blasphemy improved research. The mark on the bell was his warning sign for a beautiful lie. Her breath left her in one hard piece. "You impossible idiot," she whispered. Above the alley, a bell rang noon, though the sun was still low. The sound should have fallen from a tower. It rose from beneath her feet. Mara froze. The stones under her boots gave back a faint answering hum, as if something below the city had heard the bone bell and confirmed receipt. Yes, noted. Then a man in the next alley coughed. Just a fishmonger, bent over a crate, spitting brown into the gutter. He did not look at her. Still, too many things were listening today. She closed her fist and went to the records house. Her desk niche sat behind 3 locked doors and 1 clerk who owed her money. "You look dead," he said. "Later," Mara said. "That's not an answer." "It will be if you keep asking." He went back to his ink pot. "Good man." Mara unlocked the niche and slid Thomas's old folio from the false back. She had checked it 100 times since he vanished. More. Enough times that hope had become embarrassing. This time the bone bell warmed when she opened the final page. Thomas's last map showed the crater quarter in sharp, obsessive detail. Cisterns, sealed shrines, ward tunnels, processional routes. At the edge of the page, where official plans ended, he had drawn the White Maw and written 3 words. "They are feeding it." Behind her someone said, "Mara Ansel." She snapped the folio shut. Father Hadrick stood in the doorway with 2 lay guards and rain shining on his shaved skull. The bishop's collector. The church's paper knife. A man who could make a family disappear by correcting the right form. "By order of the rectory," he said, "you are to surrender an illicit funerary object removed from consecrated custody." Mara kept one hand under the desk, over the bell. That was quick. "Brother Pell is a vigilant man. Brother Pell is a coward." One guard smiled. Hadrick did not. "Cowards live long in St. Loss." He entered without invitation. A chain of 7 symbolic keys lay against his black coat. Tiny pale specks marked his shoulders where rain had dried. Not salt. Crater dust. Mara's pulse kicked. He had come from the Maw. "You have been attached to grave ledgers since age 14, Hadrick said. "I didn't realize we were reminiscing." "Your mother petitioned for your placement after your father's death, accepted despite irregular kinship proof and arrears on the family burial account." There it was, the old account. They loved old accounts. Old accounts never bled on the carpet. Mara smiled because anger was too expensive to spend yet. "Is that what you call patience? A boot pausing above the neck?" The guard stopped smiling. Hadrick's gaze moved to the folio, then to the ink on her fingers, then to the drawer where the bell waited. He was mapping leverage. "Your brother was also treated with patience." Mara said nothing. "More patience than was wise. If you came to threaten me with Thomas, use fresher material. The city has had 11 months to practice." The bell under the desk warmed. Not enough to burn, enough to warn. Mara glanced again at the pale dust on Hadrick's coat. Hadrick saw her see it. "Good, no, bad. Too late either way." "You were at the Maw this morning," she said. His expression did not change. "Open the drawer," Hadrick said. "No, that was not a request. I improved it." The bell rang once inside the drawer, small as a tooth-clicking glass. Hadrick's face changed. Not surprise, recognition. He had been waiting for that sound. "Take her," he said, kicked the drawer into the nearest guard's knee, and ran.